25. Jimmy. My dad's dropping me off at Frank's just as Jimmy pulls onto the gravel driveway on a beat-up old 10-speed. It's way too small for him, making him look a little like a grizzly on a tricycle. He doesn't acknowledge us. After locking up his bike, he climbs the front steps right behind me and nudges me out of the way. I stand back as he opens the door. He lets the screen door slap shut in my face. I shake it off. I knew things were off when Jimmy sat down beside me in class this morning. I could feel him staring at me, so I looked over. He huffed and looked away, chewing loudly. So I bent to get my books out and could tell he was looking over again. I jerked my head up. What? What? He shot me an angry look and rolled his eyes away to the front of the room, shaking his head like he couldn't believe this was happening. Closed his eyes and let out a huge sigh. So, my cousin... He mumbled it and tapered off, scratching at his hat-squished hair. Denny. He sat up and looked at me like I was an idiot. Yeah, Denny. My cousin. It looked like this conversation was killing him. Yeah. I nod. He told me you play drums, that you're pretty good. He glared at me a bit more, then waved his hand. He says we should go over tonight and try playing. Or whatever. I made a quick mental note to kill Denny. I stared at the top of my desk for a bit. Sarah came in and sat down in front of me, and I thought once again about how she always smells like sunshine and joy. A vision flashed through my head of her watching me play at the talent show. I turned to Jimmy. I'm okay with that if you are. Jimmy nodded a couple of times. Whatever. Fine. Only 'cause Denny has himself all in a twist about it. Now, we're both here. Frank and Denny take us down to the basement. It's unfinished, and they've covered the walls with blankets and tapestries to muffle the sound. There's a big backdrop hanging between the high windows with "Ripe Sponge" in swirly letters. Half a dozen amplifiers are scattered around. Electric guitars on stands, a keyboard, a drum set. Welcome to the lair, Ross! Frank picks up an acoustic guitar and starts checking the tuning. Denny adjusts the height of a cymbal. Jimmy goes over and throws a leg over the stool to sit down at the drum kit. He takes a pair of sticks out of his back pocket and tests the sound of a few drums. Jimmy and I still haven't spoken to each other since we got here. Frank plugs a cord into the end of the guitar. An electric acoustic? I have to admit, I didn't even realize that was a thing. I take it and put the strap over my head, noticing the hum of the amp. I look up, and Denny and Frank are looking at me. Then Denny jumps like he forgot something. Wait! We need rock and roll lighting. He flips on a couple of lamps and shuts off the overhead lights. Need the right look. This could be a historic moment. Like Keith Richards and Mick Jagger in a studio for the first time together. I've read up on my Rolling Stones because of the mix. Except Jagger didn't play drums. Jimmy makes a disgusted sound. And Keith Richards wasn't a little zit-faced dork. He shoots me a death glare and points a stick at me. All right, let's see what you got, Malloy. 26. Creative differences. Jimmy smacks his sticks together 4 times and then he's playing. Louder and a lot faster than I expected. I look over at Frank. Frank leans back against the windowsill, smiling. Play something. A chord progression, or just jump in. I watch Jimmy for a few bars. He's better than I expected. And then I go for it. I play the simplest progression I know. The first one Frank showed me. But even so, I can't change my chords fast enough. It sounds like garbage. I fumble, then stop, and then Jimmy stops. What was that? He looks like I wiped a booger on him. I feel my cheeks go red. I curse the fingers of my left hand. Denny throws some kind of rag at Jimmy's head. Slow it down, dummy. You've been playing for a year. Ross just started a few weeks ago. Jimmy rolls his eyes and turns some knob on one of the drums. Fine. He thinks about it for a second, then starts in. A different beat than before. A little slower. I wait a few bars, and then I'm in. The first time through, the chords are kind of sloppy. But then I click into the beat. And it feels great. Like 2 cogs in my brain have finally synced up. Frank is bobbing his head, rubbing his beard. Okay, there we go. Nice. Just keep that going a bit. Get used to it. Jimmy's scowl fades, and a big grin spreads across my face before I even realize it. I can't help it. This is awesome. A few more times through, and I change up the way I'm strumming. A different pattern. Jimmy hears it and changes his rhythm to match it. Denny claps his enormous hands a few times and sits back on a stool, laughs. There you go. A little call and response. This is music, ladies and gentlemen. He starts bobbing his head so happily I can kind of see the nerdy band kid hiding under all the hair and tattoos. We keep playing. After a while, one of us changes something. Then the other will follow and do something new. Back and forth. In a way, it's like a dance. A dance with a big goof who wants to knock my block off. Jimmy stops and grabs a towel from beside the drum kit to wipe his forehead. He's always kind of a sweaty guy to start with, but now he's really working. Through his wad of gum, he asks Frank to hand him a cup sitting in the corner. Denny gives us a slow clap. That was cool. That was very cool. More fun than practicing by yourself, am I right? Jimmy is nodding and slyly spitting into the cup between his legs when Denny realizes what he's doing. Jimmy, what did I tell you about that? He walks over and holds an enormous hand out, waiting. Hand it over. Jimmy rolls his eyes. Busted. Holds out the cup. Whatever. Frank jumps up and takes the cup away from Jimmy. You can whatever all you want, but you're not spitting in my favorite collectible Adventure Time cup. Denny keeps after him. What have I told you about the spitting thing? It's disgusting, dude. You aren't still carrying that nasty jar around, are you? Jimmy looks away, embarrassed. No. I can't help it. I laugh. That kind of laugh that pops out of your throat like a seal bark. Bah! They all turn to look at me, especially Jimmy, and I can literally feel the heat in his glare. Denny's eyebrows go up. He does? He still does it? I look over at Jimmy. He's boring holes in me with his eyes, then back at Denny. I don't know. Maybe? Denny puts his hands on his hips like that isn't good enough. Yeah. A lot. Denny looks really irritated as he walks over and swats Jimmy on the back of the head. Such a bonehead! You look like a freaking idiot. And it's disgusting. Chew a normal human-sized amount if you... He stops when Jimmy whips a drumstick at my head. Then Jimmy's up and moving, coming around the kit. His shoulder knocks into that up and down cymbal thingy, and it goes down with a crash. Then Frank is jumping between us. Hey! He puts his hands on Jimmy's chest, holding him back. Guitars! Expensive gear! Chill out! Little rat! Jimmy's face is red, and he's leaning into Frank's hands. He spits his gum at me, but I step away. You couldn't just shut up, could you? Moron. Way to stick up for your bandmate, you... His words are cut off as Denny steps behind him and gets him in a headlock. Jimmy fights against the huge arm for a second before giving up. Frank steps back beside me. So, okay. Maybe that's good for today. But it's a jumping off point. Denny smiles. Yeah, I think this went really well. Same time tomorrow? Later, I'll admit that I hurry to my dad's car. just in case Jimmy's waiting to get in a late sucker punch. I'm home and halfway up the stairs before I remember. Wait, did Jimmy refer to himself as my bandmate?